This episode was going to go one of two ways. We were either going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals righting their ship after a very much needed day off, or we were going to have a much more serious conversation about this ball club. Thankfully for you, Cardinals fans, it's the first one. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. I'm your host, Katie Wu. The Cardinals rout the White Sox 12-2 in the first of three games in the South Side against the White Sox today. I am not with the team this series. I will meet back up with them on Friday at Busch Stadium, but you don't need me to tell you how important getting a win today was. St. Louis coming into play today had dropped 3 of 4 to Milwaukee, lost 7 of their last 8, 10 of their last 14. You get the picture. It was pretty grim. June so far, not great for the Cardinals. In fact, it's been their worst stretch for the team so far this season. And I thought it was so important coming back after a direly needed off day that pretty much everyone needed, gave the team an opportunity to reset, regroup. I thought it was so important that the Cardinals came out well rested and handled business against the White Sox today, and they did. Lars Nootbaar returned to the lineup after a mini hiatus. We'll get more into Nootbaar and what's been going on with him later in the show. He batted 7th today, and we'll also get to Ollie Marmol's lineup configuration later in the show. But Brendan Donovan looks healthy after a minor scare with a toe sprain. He missed 4 games, but played again on Sunday. Looks to be all good there. Alec Burleson is heating up. All good signs. Big homer from Victor Scott II today, who had been going through it offensively lately. Let's just break down the box score, and we'll go and look at what changes Ollie Marmol made with his lineup. We'll start with Brendan Donovan batting leadoff today, and you know what? I think that worked out pretty well. He had a 4-hit day, scored 2 runs. That'll play. Followed by Mason Wynn in his normal number 2 spot. Ivan Herrera bumped up to the 3-hole with Donnie in leadoff. Contreras cleanup. Burleson, Arenado, Nootbaar down to 7, and then, of course, Pages and Scott bringing up the rear in their usual roles. It's a different lineup than what we've seen pretty much all year. The results, 12 runs, 13 hits, multi-hit games across the board. We mentioned Donovan's 4-hit game. That was really exciting to see at the top of the lineup. Herrera drove in 4 runs, got a home run taken away from him, continues to swing, one of the most exciting bats on the team. Burleson goes deep. We talked about Victor Scott leaving the yard. And most notably for Nootbaar, when hitless, 0 for 3, but he did walk and no strikeouts. So baby steps in the right direction for Newt. But honestly, while the offense was great, and this is something that you're supposed to do against this White Sox team, what I was super encouraged by overall was Matthew Liberatore coming out and posting a quality start. Here's the line from Libby. He went 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts, threw 86 pitches, 58 for strikes. That, to me, looks a lot more Libby-like than what we've seen over the last 3 starts. This was his first quality start since May 24th against the Diamondbacks. So that had 3 straight starts where his stuff just wasn't there. The velo wasn't sustaining. Looked much better today for Libby. So that is all things pointing in the right direction for a Cardinals team that really needed to pick up the win today. Now, I know what you're thinking. 1 win against the White Sox does not mean that the Cardinals' woes are fixed. No means am I suggesting that. But I am saying, when you take into consideration what the team looked like, that was a really tough series against the Brewers. We talked to Nolan Arenado on Sunday at American Family Field, and he said, I don't know why, but every time we come to this ballpark, it's really hard to win here. And it got me thinking, yeah, I can't really remember the last time the Cardinals won a convincing series in Milwaukee. Now, certainly they've beat Milwaukee before, but that's been at Busch Stadium. That happened this year already. I don't know what it is about this team playing at American Family Field, but that was a disappointing series loss. Those division series, especially when you see how the National League Central is shaping up. We always make jokes that it's not a super competitive division. Well, jokes might be on us because it's shaping up to be pretty competitive between 4 teams here. It was disappointing. And the Cardinals knew that June was going to be a stretch. This is something that Ollie Marmol had said when May ended. Trying to avoid a June swoon, but the scheduling was not on their side. Cardinals have, as you know, just 2 off days. Their last one of the month was yesterday, and they needed it across the board. No one's making excuses, though. Nolan said after the game, yeah, no excuses. Every team has to go through a point of their schedule like this. We have to play better. We have to beat our division opponents. Couldn't agree more. They weren't able to do that against the Brewers. I felt like today, given the circumstances, you got a lot of guys that were given days off or time to rest or coming back from injuries. You get an entire team off day, come in, handle a team in the American League that just really is not performing well. Well, they're doing better than last year, but low bar. and go out there and get a win. Start this next stretch because the Cardinals have, I think, until July 3rd before their next off day. So important to start this next stretch off with a win, and they do that. So again, my beloved Cardinal Territory listeners and watchers, I'm not at all but in any means suggesting the Cardinals are fixed. I just really want to overstate the importance of them winning today, because if they had just dropped to the Brewers, got swept by Toronto, had the off day, and dropped to the White Sox, I think morale would be at a dangerously low place. Instead, we have something to build off. So we'll get into a little bit more of what I'm looking at as the Cardinals aim to finish June better than they started. Quick, however, a first message from PXG.
It is summertime. We are in the thick of golf season. It's always golf season down in Florida, but we're in the thick of golf season across the country, and someone's looking to get a new club. That logo should say it all. PXG. What do they do?
Go get fitted. Mm-hmm. Go get fitted by one of their master fitters, professional fitters. I've done it. It's helped shave many strokes off my handicap. It is worth it. It's educational. You learn about not only clubs, you learn about shafts, you learn about grips, you learn about angles. They have all the numbers, all the setups that you need to help improve your handicap.
You feel like a VIP when you're there.
100%. They even help my putting, which needed help.
Mm-hmm. They help your putting there. That's how cool it is. So schedule your fitting today, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/FOUL. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All right, so like we talked about, Tuesday's lineup with most of the regulars back, I believe all of the regulars back actually, looked much different than the lineup we've been accustomed to seeing all season long. We'll start with the leadoff spot. Obviously, we know that Lars Nootbaar has been going through it lately, probably one of the worst slumps of his career. It got so bad on Friday against the Brewers, a 3-2 loss for the Cardinals. Lars went 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, including the strikeout that ended the game with runners in scoring position. First, credit to Nootbaar, who made himself available after the game, full uniform. We come in the clubhouse. He's sitting at his locker and doesn't shy away from the moment. He owns it. He said, I wasn't there for it. I was doing a different interview, but I did acknowledge that he did make himself available to reporters. Told the other reporters that, hey, this is something I'm going through. It's difficult. Obviously, he wants to be doing much better. But I thought it was very commendable that Nootbaar, as soon as we came in when media opened to the clubhouse, was there ready to talk about it. Not every single player does that. The Cardinals have done a really nice job across the board with that. This is the first time that I can remember Nootbaar being in a position where he'd been struggling this poorly to have to be in that situation, but he did. And it's always appreciated, I think, from both media and fans alike when players can be accountable for that. But back to why we're talking about Lars in the first place. The slump in June got so bad. I'll read it here. Coming into play today, so these stats do not include today's game. Nootbaar from June 1st was hitting, this is a slash line, 114, 235, 114. Yes, that's a 114 slugging percentage. That's an OPS of 349. No homers, no runs batted in, a whopping 19 strikeouts. And to me, that is the teller that Lars Nootbaar is not going well, because something that makes him so effective as a hitter, especially a leadoff hitter, is his plate discipline. And this is something I talked with Ollie Marmol about as well. He's searching, and you can tell that he's not feeling right in the box because he's swinging at a lot of pitches outside of the zone. That has never been the type of hitter that Lars Nootbaar has been in the major leagues. It's led to a huge amount of strikeouts and swing and miss, not a lot of contact. He walked 6 times in those 13 games. So the walk numbers are about the same, but the strikeouts were really alarming. So long-winded explanation of saying after that Friday game, while there's, I think, an intent to play these players through their slumps, because this is about the runway and opportunity year, right? It got to the point where playing Nootbaar every day was actually going to be detrimental to his mental health and his progress. So Ollie Marmol took him aside and said, hey, we're going to give you Saturday off, and we're ideally going to give you Sunday off so that you have 3 days included in the off day on Monday to get right, mental reset, get your head in a better spot, and we'll play you on Tuesday. Now, he did say we will use Nootbaar as a defensive replacement or a pinch runner if the situation allows. They ended up doing that both on Saturday and Sunday, but it was so important for the Cardinals and for Nootbaar that he did not take any at-bats until Tuesday. They hope that this will help him find his footing back in the batter's box because, as Ollie Marmol has said, For this group to work, for this idea of 2025 to be both about runway and results, Lars Nootbaar has to be a key person in that. They need him to get right, and they need him at the top of the order. But him being the leadoff man right now is not helpful for both him or the team. So need to get him back in the lineup because he needs to play. But dropping him down to 7 where he's a little bit more protected makes a lot of sense. Who are you going to step up in that moment? Cue Brendan Donovan, because of course he is. He has been the Cardinals' most valuable player this year. And you look what Brendan Donovan does as a hitter. The only reason I didn't like him in the leadoff spot was because I like him so much in the 3-hole. And that's coming from someone who did not like him in the 3-hole when the season started. So it just goes ahead and shows you what I know. Thank you for subscribing. But when it came down to, each player and their strengths, I'm not sure there was a better option there. You could maybe argue Mason Wynn, and I wouldn't disagree. But I saw what the organization, what Ollie was thinking, putting Donovan in the leadoff role. I'm not just saying that because he got 4 hits today. I think his overall skill set, his ability to make contact. We know he hits the ball. We know he gets on base. We know he doubles a ton. Those are all good characteristics of a leadoff hitter as well. So that makes sense. But if you have Donovan out of the 3-hole and batting leadoff, well, you need someone with just as much power and impact in that 3-hole spot. That to me made a lot of sense. I mean, that one was not hard to figure out who would backfill Donnie. It's Herrera. Ivan Herrera just continues to be such a professional hitter for this lineup. He's transformed what this Cardinals offense can do, and in a way has made things a little bit more complicated for the overall roster construction. We talked about this up on The Athletic after the Brewers series. Nolan Gorman, who has done a really nice job, has a nice June, has one of the highest OPSs on the team in June. He's been relegated back to the bench. I think it's fair to question why he did not start today against a righty starter for Chicago. I, too, would have questioned that if I was there. But you look at what the Cardinals are trying to accomplish and Ollie Marmol is trying to accomplish. The plan was Herrera to be the everyday catcher, Gorman to DH, Donovan at second, Nootbaar and Walker in the corners, right? However, this is no knock on Herrera. Pedro Pajes has emerged as the far superior defensive catcher. And the pitching staff and overall game planning and overall defensive alignment, that is not measured in the box score or measured on Baseball Savant or Fangraphs, really, and however you want to look at it. But it means so much to this pitch to contact staff that the Cardinals feel like they need to play him every day. But at the same time, they are not taking Herrera's bat out of this lineup, so he becomes the mostly everyday DH. Then what do you do with Gorman? You can put him at second base, but Donovan is the superior second baseman defensively. And you lose a lot of defensive value at second base if you put Gorman there and you put Donovan in the corners. You also lose defensive value in the corner outfield spots if you have Donovan there over someone like Nootbaar. And it's kind of a wash with Donovan and Walker. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but the eye test will tell me it's about the same. But the overall best defensive outlook for this club is Pedro Pajes behind the plate, Brendan Donovan at second, Lars Nootbaar in left, Ivan Herrera as the DH. Nolan Gorman then gets left to the bench. Now, don't love that for Gorman, of course, because I do think he is part of the, was named part of this transition season. It was him and Walker, the defining names here. But when you look at how the bench is currently constructed, stay with me, the Cardinals don't have an impact bat off the bench outside of Gorman right now. Everyone else on their bench are pretty much role players. That's what happens when the Cardinals carry essentially 3 catchers. And, Pozo is the best right-handed bat off the bench there. But Barrero, his entire role is to offer protection for the middle infield, specifically Mason Wynn, and go out and pinch run if needed. So you don't really have a lot of depth in your bench as currently constructed until you bring Gorman there, Walker off the bench sometimes. You can have Burleson off the bench sometimes. Just having an impact bat off the bench will make this lineup a lot more dynamic. They didn't have that because Nootbaar had that 2-day hiatus, because Donovan was dealing with stuff. He missed 3 of the 4 games against Milwaukee, because Jordan Walker missed 2 of the 4 games against Milwaukee. Their bench was really thin. So for all of the clamor on why Nolan Gorman was not in the lineup today, and I don't know what the exact playing time role will be for him going forward, I get it. It's valid. But you think about what would the impact it would have in late inning games to have someone like Gorman's bat off the bench. I like it. I understand it. Again, it's not perfect. Nothing about this roster was ever supposed to be perfect. We knew that on opening day. But today it worked out. I'll be interested to see how this continues to go forward. I don't expect Lars Nootbaar to bat 7th forever, but I imagine some version of this lineup going forward in the near future. as the Cardinals work to get Nootbaar right. Sure seems like they have a pretty viable replacement right now. I really like what we're seeing with Donovan, Wynn, and Herrera at the top of the order. All right, we'll spin it forward to what we're looking at next. First, though, one more message from our dear pals at Car Gurus.
It might be that time. If you're looking for a new car, there's one place to go that is going to take care of you, and it's Car Gurus.
Yeah, looking for a car should be fun, not exhausting. Everywhere else, it's exhausting. You're dodging people. You're trying to just, can I look at this car? Car Gurus, you type in your search, you find the color that you want, it narrows it down for you, and all of a sudden you're like, this has been an exciting experience, and you got a great deal.
With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the US, so you can find the best deal. It's no wonder SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CARGURUS.com. Cargurus.com.
All right. So the Cardinals did what they were supposed to do. They got a much needed win to open the set against the White Sox. Now what's next? It's a very fair question. They need to keep it up, obviously. Taking a series from the White Sox, it has to happen. I'm not over here asking for a sweep. Sweeps are hard. But taking 2 of 3 from this team, it's a must. Cardinals have their ace in Sonny Gray pitching on Wednesday. Eric Fedde makes his return to the White Sox since being traded almost a year ago to close out the series on Thursday. You hope that at least one of your top 2 pitchers can go ahead and shut down this White Sox offense. And to be fair, the Chicago team has not really had a lot of problem with their pitching. It's been the other side of the ball, the offensive production, that has really plagued them. So you feel confident about at least one of Sonny Gray and or Eric Fedde posting against this White Sox team and putting the Cardinals in a position to take home a series win. They really need it, because when the Cardinals come back to Busch Stadium on Friday, first, very important Cole Swindell concert. That's what I'm looking at. Post-game concert. See you there. But on a real note, 3 games against the Reds and then 4 at home against the first place Cubs. This homestand, I don't really think it's out of the question or dramatic to say that this upcoming homestand can really start to cement the immediate future of this club as we shift to July and as we shift to the 2 scariest words of the summer, trade deadline. And I've been getting a lot of questions about what are the Cardinals going to do at the trade deadline? Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Are they holders? What about the future? Are they going to go for it? Who's in charge? So much remains unknown because it's going to depend on what this team does in the next 2-3 weeks leading into the All-Star break. But this stretch right here, 7 consecutive games against division opponents, will say so much about this Cardinals club. Let's pull up the standings in the NL Central. I'm recording this at around 10 p.m. on Tuesday night. I think all of the games are done. Yeah, there go the Cubs running away with it. They're 45-28. They have a 6.5 game lead over the Brewers, so they're in second place. And the Cardinals and the Reds, 38-35, 7 games back in that division. You let this division spiral. If you're the Cardinals, you let this gap between them and the Cubs get to double digits at the end of June. That is, I think, I don't think that can happen if you are looking to be buyers at the deadline. There's also another thing to weigh is that, is the organization going to consider playoff contention overall? If the Cardinals are still in it for the wild card spot come the trade deadline, would they go for it? Or is it just strictly a divisional matchup? Let's check the wild card standings because that's fun to do in June. Really means something. Right now, the Cardinals would be 2 games out of a wild card spot. There'd be Phillies, the Giants, who did some crazy things over the weekend, trading for Rafael Devers. Buster Posey went crazy for that. And the Padres would get the last spot. It'd be the Brewers, Reds, and the Cardinals. Oh, go figure, fighting to get in there, all separated by half of a game. So clearly, this division is already shaping up to be super important. And you know what? It's about time that we had a competitive NL Central where really, I think the Cubs, I don't want to go out and say they're running away with it on June 17th because we still have over half of the season to play. But when you're looking at where the Brewers and the Cardinals and the Reds all stand up next to each other, I think they're really close. And that's going to be intriguing to watch. So this next homestand, first things first, get through the White Sox series. Get a series win. Get everyone feeling a little bit better about the situation. Then when you come home, handle business against the Reds and handle business against the Cubs. See where you stack up at the end of the month after that homestand. because then you have another 10-game trip on the road. Oh, it's not just 7 games. It's 10. Yeah, 10 games in the next 2 weeks against division opponents, because the Cardinals go 3 in Cleveland, 3 in Pittsburgh, and then 3 right back in Chicago at Wrigley Field for 4th of July weekend. So that will be insane. Yeah, a lot can happen in the next 2 weeks, and I don't want to be, the bearer of dramatic news, even though I love drama, but we have just a limited amount of time, less than a month before the All-Star break, and so many division games in between those timelines. We could be having 2 entirely separate conversations about the trade deadline with this team. It all depends on how they perform. So that's what I'm looking at over the next 2 weeks or so. Bernie and I, we've had some weird scheduling things going on, but he and I will be back to recap the White Sox series on Thursday, and we'll get a series recap about the Reds as well. I am going to kick back, relax, and listen to Chip Carey and Brad Thompson on the next 2 days from home. And hopefully when the Cardinals come back to Busch Stadium, they're in a much better spot than when they left American Family Field, because that was grim. All right, Cardinal Territory fans, be back with you later in the week. Thanks as always for watching. Talk soon.